You're watching TelecomTV from the SCWS World event in London, and I'm joined now by Stefan Lichtjens, who is the chairman of the MulteFire Alliance. Stefan, very good to talk to you again. Tell me more about the concept behind MulteFire.
So MulteFire is a LTE-based technology which operates entirely in a licensed spectrum. So that means that anybody can build a MulteFire network. So that is the big difference between, for example, MulteFire and technologies like LAA and LTE unlicensed, which still require an anchor in the licensed spectrum. So here, everything is an unlicensed, giving everybody opportunity to build their own LTE network.
And what's the significance of anchor spectrum?
It's significant because it means you need to own licensed spectrum, right? So, and if you're not having licensed spectrum, you are not able to utilize LTE technology today. So, but with MulteFire, because everything is in the unlicensed, like uplink, downlink, control channels, so it's a fully standalone system, and that creates new opportunities, actually for both operators and also for both newcomers that think they can do creative and innovative things with these kind of opportunities.
Which brings me on to the business opportunities. What are these new opportunities that MulteFire will enable?
So if you look at MulteFire, basically what it brings is it has some new attributes compared to other unlicensed technologies. You have mobility, so you can do handover. So if you have a voice call up and you walk out of the building, it stays up. It has good quality of service, so LTE is a technology which is built to work in an interfering environment, right? Some technologies are built to avoid, but LTE works in an interference environment, so you have very good quality and it stays good. So, and that means when you have more mission critical applications, for example, if you would like to bring wireless technology in hospitals, in other places where perhaps the existing technology is not good enough, now you can do it. So you can widen the use cases as compared to today.
You talk about MulteFire acting as a neutral host. What does that mean?
Oh, the neutral host is probably the biggest use case we have because one of the things with MulteFire is it's existing in bands which are available everywhere. For example, one of the bands is 5 gigahertz. So when you put MulteFire in 5 gigahertz, well, actually you can do that in any country around the world. So what you can do is that, for example, a shopping mall or a stadium builds a MulteFire network in 5 gigahertz, and when the phones have it, so any phone could roam into that network, and in that sense the stadium would become a neutral host. So you go from an operator network into a stadium, into a band that exists everywhere, and you have the similar quality of services that you would have on the macro network.
We've heard about possible interference issues with LTE-U and LAA, so how will MulteFire coexist with other technologies in the license exempt bands?
Of course, when we looked at MulteFire, one of the basic things you think at is a fair sharing of spectrum. And I think there is a set of guidelines to which every technology and unlicensed needs to adhere to. And MulteFire, it has the same attributes, listen before talk, etc. That also, technologies like Wi-Fi have. So these coexistence features in MulteFire are similar to Wi-Fi. So there is absolutely no problem on coexistence, and in fact, multiple companies have shown that, including, for example, the company I work for.
So who is behind the MulteFire Alliance? Who are the member companies supporting it, and what are you working on at the moment?
So MulteFire was, as an alliance, was established by Nokia and Qualcomm. At some point we realized we were both working on the same topic. We met together, we talked about it and say, hey, let's take this forward together. So we set up the alliance, which also had Intel and Ericsson as co-founders. They were one of the early parties we started to talk with, and since it has grown, so I think we have pioneers in there like Spider Cloud, we have Wi-Fi participation via Ruckus, we have Boingo as an entrepreneurial operator, now Softbank joined, which is a big party. This week actually Cisco came on board. So the amount of members is growing, and I think diversity is also quite good, going from new entrants to established parties.
So what are the further steps that the MulteFire Alliance must do in order to launch this on a global scale?
So there's a few things to make this take off. So one is that we need to have a standard, right? So even though we say it's based on LTE, we need to formulate what is really needed, and we need to make sure everybody implements the products in the same way. So we have a team defining the standard. It's coming out in the fourth quarter this year. It's MulteFire Release 1, and that would be the basis for the first product implementation. At the same time, I think all the members are starting to develop their products, and when they come out, of course, we also need a certification process. So another arm of the alliance is that we set up the certification, so that ultimately we know that whatever product comes to the market, it meets the standard that we are setting up. And then, of course, we have somebody looking at regulatory aspects, country by country. Is there something we should think of? We have a marketing committee, etc.
Softbank has recently joined you as a member. How significant is that to have a Tier 1 operator on board?
Softbank is the first Tier 1 global operator, so we're very happy they joined and that they are seeing the potential that they can use MulteFire to augment the macro network. Because even though MulteFire is expanding the ecosystem, it has good opportunities for operators, because still, if you look to small cells today, when you put in a small cell, you still need to think, how does it interwork with the macro? Because it's always the same band, and as to where MulteFire as is in a totally different band, you have no issues at all, no code channel, so so the way to deploy it is much simpler. And I think Softbank is one of the first companies to look at those different attributes and how can they benefit from that.
So how does all this fit with the work that the 3GPP is doing on the evolution of LTE?
Well, we are staying in sync with the 3GPP, and of course if you look to the member companies like Ericsson, Nokia, Qualcomm, Intel, we're all very active in 3GPP, and we leverage the 3GPP standard as much as we can. So especially LAA and LTEU, which has some of the similar mechanisms for fair sharing and contention. So we take those in, and then of course where needed we add the specific developments to make it a standalone system.
And how might this play into the future development of 5G?
Actually, it's a great, how shall we call it, predecessor for what you can do with 5G. So because I think MulteFire, again, it brings connectivity to places it doesn't exist yet. It allows use cases you cannot do yet. For example, with the lower latency, I think it's an excellent play to try out IoT, to connect machines, people, devices in indoor and industry environments, as I said earlier, hospital areas. So I think success in MulteFire probably is a good indication that 5G would be successful as well.
Stefan, good to talk to you again. Thank you very much indeed.